I am showing 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on the dot, so we will go ahead and kick things off. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the American Family Insurance Dream Bank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. My name is Andy Frisky. I am a part of the Dream Bank team and so excited to have you all with us here today. As we go ahead and get started, we always like to ask where folks are tuning in from and encourage you to do so in the chat if you are comfortable with that. I am joining you all from a downtown Madison, Wisconsin, and it's a little rainy here today. But we'd like to just kind of ground everyone, whether it's your first time joining us here or if you're a seasoned veteran of attending our events in the past. Thank you so much for joining us here. Here at American Family Insurance, we believe that communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. And that's why DreamBank was created. It's an inspirational community destination and virtual experience that is dedicated to dreamers everywhere. Our offerings are designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, to overcome obstacles, and to stay motivated. I'll go ahead and I'll pop in a couple pertinent links in the chat throughout the presentation here today. But so excited to introduce our featured speaker here today, Emily Davis. Emily will be chatting about websites that work. She's a multi-talented, multi-passionate individual. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Emily. Emily, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, as he said, my name is Emily Davis. I am with Magic Mirror Marketing, the founder and CEO, and I've been building websites for about 15 years. And so there are a lot of things that I have learned in that time, and I wanted to share at least 5 of those things with you today. And I've worked on everything from WordPress websites to Wix, Squarespace, Kajabi. I mean, there's a lot of different platforms out there and a lot of different options, but regardless of which one you choose, these are some things that should help you to really build a website that isn't just pretty, but that actually works for you. So go ahead and get my slides up. All right, can we see the slides? Is that good? All right.
Good. Yep.
Thank you. All right. So as I said, I've been doing this for about 15 years, and usually people come to me at 4 different stages. Put a 0 in the chat if you have not started a website yet. Like if it's just kind of like, I'm thinking about doing something, so I haven't started at all. Put a 1 if you're working on it, like this is something that you're actively trying, but is not actually live. And by live, it means it's not published. The world can't see it quite yet. And then put a 2 in the chat if your website is live. That means that people are actively able to go and see it. And 3 is maybe it's been live for a while, and you've realized that some things need to change. Either it's not meeting your needs or your business has actually changed. So let me take a look here. All right, 2, 3s, lots of 2s and 3s so far. Ooh, Karen, we got a 0 in there, and Sherry and Monica. Okay, Brenda, Laura. All right, so we've got some people who are just starting out. Now, to those of you that are already launched, I'm hoping that a lot of these changes should be pretty quick for you. So you should be able to make adjustments to your website that will just improve them. And then for those of you who think it's time for some change, I think this will make you think a lot more about what those changes should be. All right. And yes, Ellen, Google does have a tendency to do things that frustrate us from time to time. All right. So when it comes to a website, before I launch into these tips, I wanted to go over a couple things that a website is not. So first of all, your website is not a piece of art. And sometimes I feel like people do treat them this way, that if they just make the perfect, beautiful piece of art and hang it up on the internet, they'll suddenly have lots of clients or customers. But unfortunately, that's not how it worked, because if it was how it worked, then a lot of millionaires would be made, or it would be a lot more expensive to actually get on the internet. And it's also not a magic bullet. The website cannot be all things for your business. It can do a lot, but it can't be just the one thing that's going to tip you over the edge. It is a tool. And a good website is never done. And what I mean by this is that your business is going to continue to evolve from the moment you have your first idea or concept of what you want your website to be or what you want your business to be. It continues to change as you change. Maybe you refine who it is that you're speaking to. Originally, you think you're speaking to men and women between the ages of 40 and 60. And then you realize you really love working with single moms between the ages of 35 and 55. Those kinds of things tend to happen over time. And so a good website is going to change and transition with you. So again, going back to, it's not a piece of art. It's not meant to be perfect and just stuck up there and set it and forget it. A good website is going to be one that helps your business grow and is a tool. And what I mean by a tool is that, just as a hammer and a saw are a tool, they each have their purpose, but you need to know what you're building so you know whether to pick up a hammer or a saw. And so that's what I'm hoping we can help identify today. All right. So my first tip is that when you go to build your website or when you're looking to change your website, think about what you want your visitors to do. And I've noticed a lot of small business owners especially are hesitant to put a button that just says buy this, or like any really direct thing that you want to tell them to do, because they don't want to be pushy. They don't want to, there's like kind of this feeling of a 1970s bad used car salesman, and people don't want to be that. They want to allow people to just explore their website and learn. But here's the thing, people want to be told what to do. Imagine that you're at a traffic stop and the light is broken and there's a police officer there trying to direct traffic. If they're like, well, you could go here, you could go there, it doesn't actually help. Like, nobody wants that. You want clear direction. Go left or go right. And then people can choose to accept or reject what it is that you're asking them to do, but they're making a clear decision as opposed to just sitting in a gray area of like, well, I'm not sure, so I'm just going to back away and make no decision at all, right? So usually when you're telling visitors what you want them to do, it's in the form of a button, like a call now button, all right? Now, if you could, in the chat, I'd love it if you guys could give me some other examples of we call this the call to action button. What are some other examples of calls to action that you've seen on websites? So we've got call now, sign up for a newsletter, okay, book an appointment, sign up, buy now, download an ebook, right? So again, these are direct calls to action. These are things that the person on the site clearly wants you to do. And I've been trained in a marketing framework called StoryBrand. It was designed by a man named Donald Miller. So I highly recommend it if you want to look up Marketing Made Simple. It's a book that's really great for exploring a lot of marketing concepts. But he talks in there about how sometimes we just want to hide the cash register because we're embarrassed to ask the question directly. So we're like, well, when they really want me, they'll come to me. And you don't want to do that. You want to make it easy. Has anyone been to a department store where, like, it used to be when I was a child, you went to a department store, there was like 8 cash registers, and now you walk in and it's like, where is just one? I just want one so I can buy my stuff and get out. Has anyone else had that? You don't want to frustrate people on a website. You want to make it easy for them to take action once they land on your site. And so actually the hardest part is not creating this button and putting it on a website. Most website platforms now make it pretty easy to have a button, and it's usually in the top right-hand corner just because we read left to right. And so that's kind of where our eye goes naturally. But not only is it important to have the button, it's important to think through what action do you want people to take? Because you have some control here. And for your business, what will work the best? For some, it's really easy. You have a product, buy now. Easy, easy, simple. If you're a consultant, probably schedule a consultation. Really easy. But for some of you that have multiple things that you offer, deciding what the most important thing that you offer, the most important action you want people to take, will guide the entire rest of your site. All right. And we'll get more into that in a moment. So here are some examples of calls to action that you can do. RSVP, join the webinar, buy the tickets. And you do want to be direct because you don't want people to be confused about what happens next. So for example, learn more is a very weak call to action because what happens when I click that button? I'm going to learn more. Is it going to be an instant download into my brain? Is it going to be a PDF? Am I going to a new page? Am I going to a video? What happens here? And so anytime you can be really clear, it takes away that mystery of what happens when I click this, because people won't take action if they feel weird or intimidated or just unsure of what happens next. So anytime you can be clear, that's going to help a lot. And again, going back to knowing what action you want people to take is actually going to guide the rest of your website. Because for number 2, you want to make sure on your website that you present a problem and a solution. So what this would look like is that, if you know the action you want people to take is to sign up for a consultation, the messaging on your website should be about why a consultation is going to help them. right? So, for example, on my own website, the clientele that I tend to work with are usually people who are on not their first website, but like a second or third version, that they're ready to make some changes. So presenting the problem from that perspective, and you can see using bullet points, it's hard to update. It's confusing to customers. It doesn't reflect who you are. These are internal struggles that people have, and you want to go ahead and point them out. All right. And then presenting a solution about what you believe should be happening, about what changes you can make. So let's again go back to different types of websites. If you have a product website, a lot of times this can be the problem is that your backyard is full of mosquitoes and your family can't enjoy a nice night outside without getting eaten alive. That's a product, and you want to bring that to the forefront and aggravate it. The solution is your special bug zapper, and that bug zapper kills 99% of mosquitoes, and your family's able to enjoy a good time outside. So you present the problem and a solution. And you don't want to go too heavy on either. You want to kind of bounce back and forth, because if you're all just solution, but you don't present the problem, sometimes people don't know that they need you, right? So presenting the problem first helps people understand that what you offer is somehow going to allow them to either survive or thrive. So they're going to either have a better life or become something that they really want to become. If you're like a coach or consultant, usually that aspirational, what I want to become, is really big. If you're selling a product, it's usually like, there's a reason I need this in my life. So presenting the problem and the solution is really key. And ultimately, it's about making a connection with your audience. If you're talking too much about like, oh, we're so awesome, we're so great, this product is amazing, but you're not addressing what their actual problems are, it's making yourself a hero. And people from the outside are like, okay, that's great. I'm really glad that you're so awesome, but how does that impact me? Whereas if you make yourself a guide of saying, you have this problem and I can help you, I can reach down and pull you out, that creates a strong bond with your clients or customers. And so that's something really important that you want to focus on. The problem and the solution both need to be on your website. So take a look at your messaging and really think about, am I showing a problem and a solution? And a good way to do that is to use bold headlines to capture attention. This is one of the easiest changes you can make on your website, and yet it's so easy for people to skip that they don't think about the fact that most people don't read websites on their first visit. They scan them. So people very quickly will look at your site and decide if they're going to stay on it. The average person stays 2 to 3 seconds on a website before deciding if they're going to bounce off of it. Just a few seconds. So you want to make sure that when someone lands on your site, that there are things there that grab their interest to make them want to stay. So one of the biggest things is the headline, the very, very big one. You need to make sure that that is clear about what it is that you do and how you can help. And then having subheadlines and bolded text so that if someone is scanning a website, they are easily able to find what it is they're looking for. So this is just kind of a silly example. You know, this is really important, is the big phrase. Less important, but still pretty cool. Gets a little bit more emphasis, usually either through italics or just being a larger size in the bulk text. But then you want to make sure that you have bold text throughout. So when someone skims it, they can find it. Now, for the sake of Google, you do want to make sure you have a decent amount of text on your website. But for the sake of people who actually read it, you need bold headlines and you need bold text so that they can figure out what the high points are of your messaging, why they need you, what the problems are, what the solutions are. All right, so here's an example when you look at like a website having a really big headline, but making it really clear. Sometimes we have the temptation to be super clever in that top section of a website. We call it above the fold, harkening back to the days of newspapers where you wanted to be above the fold of a newspaper. But on a website, it's before people have to scroll. You want to make sure that your headline is very, very clear about what it is that you do, because you don't get a second chance to tell them later what is happening. And if someone has to scroll to find out that you're a painter, that's a problem. And we actually use calories to think through things. Like it's an actual calorie burning activity to read and to comprehend and to think and to absorb information. And if someone has to use too many calories to figure out what you do in the first 5 seconds on your website, they may just leave because it's too much effort. And especially now with such short attention spans in the world, you want to make sure that people get the information really, really quickly, as well as those, get a quote, those calls to action we were talking about. Make it simple for people to take the action that you want them to take. You're leading them down a path and you have big signs on the side of the road letting them know I'm on the right path. This is where I should be. So headlines. So we have here the main headline. We have a button that's clear about what it is that will happen when they push the button. They're going to get a quote. Top quality service, work you can trust, no surprises. Now they can read the text under it. They probably will not the first time. Tackling a paint project is tough, so we're agitating that problem. And then, getting a quote. So that's how you want to continue through your website, is having sections that address problem, solution. That can really help. All right. Over here in the comments, somebody asked, how many words should the call to action be? So for the buttons, you do want to keep it brief, just because when you're going from desktop to mobile, which is something that happens a lot in our world, if it's too long, you're going to have awkward buttons or awkward breaks. And depending on if you're WordPress or Squarespace or, Wix, they're going to behave differently. And keeping things simple is usually a good idea on websites anyways, because as I said, you don't want people to have to spend too many calories figuring out what's going on. So if you can figure out a short way, that's good. Schedule a consultation is technically a longer phrase. I found it still works. Usually if you have the right font size on the button, it's okay, but much longer than that, and you're getting a bit wordy. You want to describe it probably in the paragraph above it and then have book a call or register now, or just really, really clear instructions on your call to action. All right. Also, Dr. Sharon is asking, if folks are scanning quickly, is there a need for a menu such as About Us, programming? So I don't go directly into menus in this presentation, so I'll touch on this really quick here. Menus that are up top should be also very clear and very short to direct people where you really want them to go. You can have lots of pages on your website that not everyone needs to see. So for example, if you're a consultant that works with, say, teachers primarily, but then you have, like, occasionally you're going to work with a school district or something like that, like you work on a bigger project, you probably don't need school districts necessarily in the top navigation, but you can still have that page so you can send a direct link to someone who's interested. Or the footer menu is another area where you can have what some in my industry refer to as the junk drawer, just like everything else that you want to have. Because if there's too much happening at the top of the page, you'll confuse people again. You'll make them so they're not quite sure, well, what action do they want me to take? Where should I be going? Because you've got like programs, workshops, youth trips. I don't know, like you just start getting too many things and no one's sure what it is that you focus on. Something in marketing that's important to remember is that marketing is specific and works best when it is specific. But you as an individual and your business most likely do have a lot of different ways that you can help people. And so it's important to figure out, how can I focus it for this purpose at this time so that it will really connect with people? Because if you try to talk to everyone all at once, you end up talking to no one, because no one will really identify with you, and they'll be hard for them to see themselves in it if you're saying, I help everyone from ages 18 to 95 who live in the northern hemisphere of the world. Right? That's too many people. We don't see ourselves in it. But if you say, I work with single mothers who are ex-military and are looking to work remotely in like a virtual assistant job, there's somebody who's going to say, that's me. That's what I want, and this person can help me get what I want. So just remember that marketing is specific, even if your business actually has more things that it can do. And so sometimes you just have to do multiple marketing efforts that speak specifically to different audiences, such as having different pages that speak specifically to a group. So you can be really specific, but when someone lands on your homepage, you can have kind of, I call it a sorting hat or a choose your own adventure, where you can say like school districts, teachers, principals, like you can sort people on the homepage to get them off, but you still want to have kind of your overall idea on the homepage. I kind of went down a little bit of rabbit hole with that. Oh, that's really funny, Dr. Sharon, that you actually do serve students. Okay. I get info through school districts, counseling orgs, churches. All right. If you're seeking donations, your primary audience is donors. If your primary action is seeking donations, your primary audience is donors. And so it's a deep conversation to figure out specifically which audience it is, but think about who are the target donors you're going after, and that's your primary audience. But again, you can still have other pages for the other areas that you serve so that you can still help those groups, but you want your homepage and your primary messaging to be towards the action you want people to take. Because really, your website, as I said, it's a tool. And think of it like an employee that you need to give them a job to do. And if their job description is too broad and too unwieldy, it's never going to do a good job at it because you're giving it way too much to do. But if you give it a specific job, if you tell your website, I need you to get donations when a donor lands on the website, then you can evaluate whether or not your website is doing a good job or a bad job. Okay. All right. Good questions. Thank you, Dr. Sharon, for asking. All right. Number 4, use images that show success. So on a website, I will tell you that one big error you can make is to have a website that just looks like this. If it's just headlines, you're missing out on a real key thing, which is that pictures really do communicate so quickly to us what it is that people want us to feel. So for example, I'm going to toss up some photos and I just want you to put in the chat what emotion you think, or emotion or concept do you think is being communicated? So if you saw this on a website, what's being communicated? Relief, freedom, joy, happy. Yes, this woman is feeling something really big and it's good, right? What about this person? What are they doing? Success, winning. They've conquered something, right? Yes. There's that feeling of, you know, what happened when they put their fist in the air. All right, how about this person? What are they experiencing? Peace, dream, tranquility, relaxation. Yes, these are great phrases for it. And so pictures can also be very versatile, but without saying a word, you can communicate what success is going to look like for your audience. Okay, so you can see some of the images I have on here. If your website has no pictures, you're missing out on an opportunity to emotionally connect with someone in less than a second. Because if your header has a picture that shows what it is you're promising. So say you're a consultant that promises that you're going to have collaboration or teamwork or something like that. This picture up here of, you know, all these people happy talking in a group, that shows collaboration, that shows teamwork. And so you can communicate that without ever having to say the words. But once you add the words, then the subconscious and the conscious in the brain start working together. Because here's a secret. We think that we make decisions logically, but numerous studies have shown that people make decisions emotionally, and then we justify it with logic after the fact. Simple example of this is that I go to the store, I see a pair of shoes I've been eyeing for a long time and they're on sale, so I buy them. But the reality is, while I may say I bought them because they're on sale, I actually bought them because something about the shoes already connected with me. And I was already really excited about them because for some reason I felt I needed those shoes. And I do have an extensive shoe collection, so this is based on a true story. But we used the sale, the logic to be like, oh, but it was on sale. So that's why I got it. But we all know that you may have ultimately bought it anyway if you thought you needed it enough, even if it wasn't on sale. And so it's the same thing with websites. Whenever you can capture emotion, talk about those internal struggles that people are having, that makes a huge difference. And when you put a picture with it, you add just so much oomph to the whole thing. And it's a very simple change you can make on your website is adding photos. Now with coaches and consultants, something that I've noticed is they often struggle with, should it be a picture of me or not? Especially if you've paid for like branding photos or things like that. You're like, oh, should I have a picture of me? I always say it goes back to the emotion. If you look happy and excited at the top of your website and you're promising that you're going to get teams happy and excited and energized, put yourself up there. If you look super serious and low key and you're promising excitement, maybe put your picture further down. Most people who visit a website are not consciously thinking about who's in the photo. They're just thinking about the emotion, or they're feeling the emotion. But they're not thinking, oh, is this the person I'm going to talk to? They're just visually taking it in, reading the headline, and then deciding if they're going to keep reading. So just keep that in mind. For those of you who are product-based, who have something tangible that you're selling, I often encourage you to look at how can you make it look like it's being used in real life. And again, achieving this success that you're promising. So if it's somebody saving time, I mean, you don't have to be literal with it. It can just be someone who looks happy because they're saving time. So they're holding the thing in their hand and they're like, yes, this is great. There's success. That guy pumping his fist in the air. These pictures just need to go along with the concept so that people connect that emotion to what it is that you're talking about. All right. Kathy is asking about nonprofits with your story and why. When you pull at the heartstrings, you loosen the purse strings. That is right, Kathy. When you pull on the heartstrings, you loosen the purse strings. That is a really great saying. And it's true. And it's true for all types of selling that we do. Again, we like to think it's about a logic. Like if I just tell them all the science behind this, then they're going to want to buy it. No, you need to tell them why they need it to survive. And that's more of an emotion that we feel, that I need this. I want this, more than our brain saying like, you absolutely have to have it. You're going to win people a lot faster with emotion than you are through logic. All right. Now, the fifth thing I strongly recommend that you do on your websites to improve their efficacy is to collect visitor emails using a lead generator. So you've all seen this. One of the simplest forms is sign up for our newsletter and you get a 5% off coupon. That's a very straightforward way. Now, if you're in a different industry, a service industry, usually it's some sort of download that's going to help people get a little bit closer to what they want, but it's very easy for you to let go of. Something that's been popular lately has also been quizzes. Like if someone takes a quiz, so they get categorized, and you know, like what kind of shoe are you? Find your sleep number. That's an old classic. Or for this client, she helps interior designers figure out what their differentiator is, what sets them apart from other interior designers. And so she designed a quiz to help do that. Now, the advantage is once she has their email address, then she's able to do email marketing. And the key to creating a good lead generator is to make sure that it is made for your ideal customer or client, not everyone. So again, if you're on a store and you offer 5% off coupon, probably everybody's going to download that, right? Because they're going to say like, yes, I want 5% off, and that's great. But if you're in a service industry, you actually want it to be much more tailored, because your email list, your charges actually go up depending on your provider. They actually increase if your email list is too big, and you don't want to be marketing to people that are never going to buy from you. You know, so again, if you are marketing to men from the ages of 18 to 30 who love disc golf, you don't want to put out a lead generator that encompasses all sports. That would appeal to anyone who loves sports, from basketball to football to golf to disc golf, because then you're going to be marketing people who don't have an interest in the specific thing that you want to sell them. So if you're trying to sell disc golf bags or something like that, you want to make sure that you're doing a PDF or a video or a quiz or some other lead generator that is targeted to that demographic, so that you know the people who are downloading it are really warm leads. They're people who are very interested in working with you or in buying your product. Dr. Sharon is asking, for service-based businesses and donors, where donors are the audience, what might a good lead generator be for like people who are 30 plus? That's a long discussion, because it really depends on, again, what you're specifically trying to appeal to. Speaking in broad terms, some of the most effective ones really are PDFs. Like sometimes like a white paper that talks about whatever you're raising money for. So showing the research, but adding in the stories can be effective, of like where your money goes or something like that. in more general terms, like outside of nonprofits, I would say for lead generators, some of the best ones I've seen have been like short courses that people can go through really quickly to get additional information. Having a PDF that has a title that sounds like a National Enquirer headline. They call it clickbait, when it's something that just really appeals to them, like 5 ways. Well, so for example, the title of this webinar is, 5 ways to make your website work. And I had that for a long time as the freebie on my website. And so if there's 5 simple ways to make your website better, a lot of people who are looking to improve their website are going to download that, right? And so just think about what is easy for you to give away that isn't actually the core thing that you do. You don't want to give away all your magic, just a little bit of it, so that then people are intrigued. Because a lead generator, it's kind of like dating. So you can jump straight to asking someone to marry you, but not everyone's going to know right away. Not everyone falls in love immediately. A lot of times people need some back and forth. And so when someone comes to your website and they're intrigued by you, having a lead generator that lets them know a little bit more about you, a little bit more about what you do, and then allows you to get them on an email list that you can continue the conversation will allow you to, develop a deeper relationship. So then when they are ready to buy, they remember to come back to you. Now, some people do ask, does email marketing even still work? Like, is this still a thing today? So I'll give you a couple of perspectives on that. Number one is that something that's great about email marketing is that you own the list. It is yours. Social media is a really effective way to speak to your audience, but it is rented real estate. If at any time Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whoever decides that they don't like you anymore, they can turn it off and then you lose all access. So having a list that you own just gives you just a little bit more control. Email lists are also very scalable. There's a lot of different things you can do with an email list, and it doesn't even necessarily mean you're emailing them. I have seen some very effective marketing strategies where people do summits with other individuals in their industry, and they basically are trading email lists because they're allowing, when they're doing one event together, they're emailing out to everybody's email list all collectively. And so because you have this list, it gives you some buying power, in a sense, to work with other individuals. And, that's a whole other webinar about how summits and things can work. But when you have a list of people you can communicate with, it really strengthens your position. Email is also one of the easiest forms of marketing to actually measure, to know what your reach is, who's opening it, and what's happening. And it is a direct connection with your audience. As I said, social media is more rented real estate, although it can be very, very effective. Email marketing is a direct way to connect with them. And it builds your brand. Sometimes creating the content for your email helps you clarify more and more about your brand over time. And you can build up quite a library of information, whether it's because you're writing blog posts to include on your emails, or whether you're writing actual great content on your emails, or having someone else write it for you. Keep in mind, there are specialists who do this and virtual assistants. Just having all that information and kind of working through that can be really, really effective. All right. Does anyone have any questions about lead generators or email marketing? Just curious. All right. Well, if you guys are feeling really good, what I would love to do now is I want to do some live website reviews, and I'll answer these questions that just popped up while we're doing that. If anyone has a website that they'd just like me to do kind of a quick take a look and give you some feedback on, I'd love to go through and just kind of show you guys how to take these 5 principles and apply them to an actual website. So if anyone is feeling brave, they can go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll go ahead and answer these questions. All right, so what is an economical site for an author to use? So as an author, I've seen people need websites for different purposes for authors. One is some people use books as kind of like business cards, that they're actually looking to speak or to be a leader in an industry. And so the book gives them authority. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is, of course, if you are an author, so say you write I don't know, sweet romances or something, and that's your bread and butter. And so you want to make sure that people can come and see all of your books all in one place, and it's not just through Amazon. That's a different type of author site. And so the first, where it's more of the business card, usually can be tied onto a different website that shows your authority. So you want to have a brand site that's more about you, whereas the second, you want it to be more about, you as an author, but more about the books and making it easy to get in there. Um, so, what's an economical site for an author to use? Economics or individual. A platform I absolutely love is called Wix, just because it's very, very easy to edit. When COVID happened, I really found that people who had, like, say, WordPress is an amazing platform. You can make it sing, dance, do all kinds of great things. But it can be really intimidating if you're not in websites all the time to try to edit a WordPress site. A lot of the editors are not very user-friendly, and they change suddenly without warning, and you can't find how to make changes anymore. And you're usually tied to a programmer for the life of your site, because at some point something's going to break. That's just kind of how WordPress operates. At some point a plugin goes out, or malware or something. There's just something that's going to go wrong. I've had a lot more success with Wix and with Squarespace for people who are looking to get websites up quickly. Squarespace is great because it is a very rigid framework that you pick a template and things look a particular way, and it gives you very limited space to pick fonts and colors, because it makes you have fewer decisions you need to make before the website goes live. So you can go live very quickly, usually with a Squarespace site. As a designer, Wix gives a lot more flexibility, so I tend to prefer that one. But usually things that make websites more expensive are you going to be taking payments or not? If you're not taking payments, there's a lot of really economical options out there, including like GoDaddy. GoDaddy has sites that you can launch pretty easy now, or any platform like SiteGround. Like, a lot of them have kind of out of the box, just get started kind of websites. But if you're an author, I think some of the determining factors are going to be, are you going to want to actually sell, like do e-commerce, or are you just linking to someplace like Amazon? And then also considering how often are you going to be updating it, type of content, the audience. So I wish I could give you a more firm answer there, but I hope that helps a little bit. Constant contact alternatives. So Constant Contact is like one of the original email systems out there. And so if you have an email list, some of the more popular ones that you hear about are Constant Contact, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign. MailerLite is another one. And then I mentioned Wix has its own email system, like a very starter type email system. It's not very fancy, but it gets the job done. That's included in Wix, and Squarespace has one as well that's already included on that platform. What I say is, usually you're going to start with a platform and just start with their very basic or free package, but start taking notes about what you like and what you wish it did or did better. Because when you go to shop around, they are all incredibly similar. Like, how they think, how they operate are very similar. So it's usually a particular function that they're using to differentiate themselves. So it may be how the customer journey happens, whether or not they have landing pages, so that like, say you don't have a website right now, if email marketing is your thing, if that's one of the best ways for you to communicate with customers, like you already have an email list, maybe you built it up on social media, something like that, there are actually email services that, like MailChimp, I know does that, where you can build a landing page. So when you send an email out, they can just go to that landing page and you don't have to buy a separate hosting site. So that's an option as well. I hope I'm not throwing too much information at you guys now, but there's lots of fun options when you start thinking about, okay, what action do I want people to take, and where in the customer journey are they landing on my site? That's something else that's important to think about with all the different marketing methods. When you think about your website as a tool, where and when is this tool being used? So for example, I have a client who, her name's Michelle Villalobos. She's excellent speaker, author, and she's a coach as well. And when we were going over her website, we realized that most people land on her website after they've already seen her either in person, like in a speaking engagement, or following her YouTube channel. And so that gave us a clue about the types of actions we wanted people to take once they landed on her site, because they already had pre-exposure. Now, if people are coming to your site completely cold, you're going to talk to them a little bit differently than if someone has already seen you in person or something. So just always think about that. What action do I want people to take? Where in the journey are we when they land on this website? All right, I've been talking a little bit longer than I thought. I would love to get to some of these websites.
Emily, I sent you just the one that was first, where we'll just go in chronological order or the order in
Okay.
which people submitted them. So I sent you a private message for the first one that I saw.
Okay, so looks like Bay bookkeeping. Let me stop. Share. All right. Okay, so Bay bookkeeping services. All right, so some things that I like right away. Save time and money by outsourcing your bookkeeping. It's very clear that you're a bookkeeper, so that's great. I do like that a lot. I like that you have the problem here. I do wish it was emphasized a little differently because it's pretty easy to skip over what this is down here just because of design wise is a little dark on dark, like the dark text on the darker part of the blue right now. And so, again, you have a really good headline. I would just like to see, are you tired and overwhelmed? You could either emphasize that or you could emphasize owning a business is hard work. Let's talk about how we can take the pain of bookkeeping off your plate. Like I would shorten the sentence a bit, but just making that even a little bit bigger to really emphasize that owning a business is hard work. Let's talk about how we can take the pain of bookkeeping off your plate. I think that's a really, really strong way to do that. So up here, like the blue, there is a emotional theories behind, or there's theories behind color and emotion. Blue tends to be a color of trust. We perceive it as being, trustworthy. So you see it a lot with banks, lawyers. The darker the blue, usually the older the institution. The lighter the blue, usually kind of a feeling of newness, excitement. And so I can see that in your brand colors, you've got kind of that all in there. So I think the blue is good as for a feeling of trust, but I would love to see just a little bit more excitement. And so that could be like if you get updated brand photos, just making sure that you get one of you laughing or looking carefree. Because as business owners, I know, I struggle a lot with thinking about my finances. It's not a fun one and I don't want to think about it. So somebody taking that off my plate is a big deal. And if you can show maybe more than one, like, I had like the different circles, you could show a couple different types of people too, to kind of mix it up, to open it up to who it is that you work with. But in general, like I said, I really love that you've got this up here. And I think if you emphasize this sentence more, or those two sentences more, that's going to help a lot. All right, so scrolling after we scroll, you're going into taking this problem and jumping into how they can actually do that. Save time, save money. Okay, so I think these two sections are actually really strong because you're letting me know what happens. Remote bookkeeping, I would love to see that more connected to a problem about like saying like always have access to the financial information you need, or bringing up like how's it going to benefit me more than just being a category title from remote bookkeeping. I think that would be really helpful because again, you need to keep people reading. Okay, I'm going to save time. I'm going to save money. I might skip remote bookkeeping because I don't know how it applies to me yet. And there's a lot of text here, right? So doing that can be very, very helpful. I love the how it works section. This is from StoryBrand, just so everyone knows, the like giving a clear plan because it lets people know what to expect next. It just makes us feel a little bit more secure. So I do love that section. And testimonials are always great on a website to show that you understand their problems and that you can help them because you've helped other people. So that's good. So yeah, so I would say when it comes to headlines, think more in terms of save time so you can spend them on your passions. Like you could elongate them. It does work. This is efficient. So I think that's good. Overall, I mean, from a graphic design standpoint, could you fancy it up? Yes. I think you could probably make it look just a bit more refined from a graphic design standpoint. But I really love the messaging that you've already started tackling in there because I think you're going to grab attention with those. You just want to get maybe a bit more energy, excitement at the top, and then really pulling out that, we're going to take the pain of bookkeeping off your plate. I think the more you emphasize that, that's going to help a lot. All right. Who is next?
All right. Are you looking for the next one? I got it coming your way.
Okay. And somebody did put in the chat about ADA compliance. Some websites like Wix, I know now has a tool that can help you check color contrast to make sure that people who have visual impairments can actually read it. Because like I said, that black on blue can be really tough for people to read. So you want to check that out. There's also tools, like I think it's called UserWay, that can help to actually, like you can install it on your site so that if someone does have struggles with that, that they can either increase the font size or they can change the contrast. And so that just helps making your site more accessible. All right, so we're going to show Ashley Taylor. All right. Development is for everyone. So the first thing I'll say is I'm not sure what development is. So I came from higher education when I first graduated from college. I worked there. Development was how we talked about people fundraising. Development, if you're in school, could mean something different. Like, are you helping people to develop emotionally, psychologically? Like, what are you doing? So that's just something to keep in mind, is that, again, you want people to think as little as possible when they first land on it. So if you could just be more explicit about what it is that you do, that's really helpful before they even scroll. Okay, so it looks like looks like you're getting into speaking or have been a speaker for a while. Schedule speaker reel. Okay, so the further I go on the website, it becomes more obvious that speaking is really what this website is geared towards, is that you're wanting, I assume, to be booked to speak. And so again, this goes back to where's the action button to tell people to like either schedule a time to talk so that you can find out if you're a speaker match for them. Because you have this 30-minute meeting, but there's no context around it. What happens when I schedule a meeting with you? Is that a development meeting? Like, are we going to talk about development? What happens? Professional development. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I would say probably, Ashley, the most helpful thing would be to get really clear on what you specifically talk about, like even mentioning the title of your keynote or something so that they know what audiences you're best for. Again, I'm skimming really quickly, but most people will. That I'm still like not having read every single word. I'm not exactly sure what you speak about because you mentioned yoga, you mentioned professional development, you mentioned a couple different things that you could potentially be on, which means you're not connecting with anything specific. I love that you have some bright colors in your photos. That's fun. And I do think having like a Calendly or a link to an app like Calendly, and just so everyone on here knows, Calendly is, they have a free version that you can do where people can schedule one-on-one meetings with you, and you have just like a link, and it makes it very easy. It usually connects to either your Google or your Apple Calendar. I think they also do Outlook. It can connect to your calendar so people can schedule with you. And so that's a very helpful tool. There's also Acuity is another one. So those types of tools are very, very helpful, but you do want to give context about like, so why am I scheduling a meeting? What is happening when I click this button and move forward? Because people are hesitant to move forward when you don't have that. And if your overall goal is you want people to check your availability or book Ashley to speak, again, I do a button in the top right and make it really clear up top. And then, just throughout the site, give them an easy opportunity to do that. Oh, you do have speaking topics. I glossed over it because it just looked like pictures. I would want more context behind these three. I think it's good that you have them, but again, giving a little bit more context to it to help us understand what are you really speaking about? What is Don't Fear the Storm? Does that have to do with transitions in business? Does that have to do with doing a bad yoga pose? What's happening? So just give me some more clues about what it is that you're doing. Okay. This is a Show It site. So Show It is newer on the scene. I actually haven't been on the back end of a Show It website yet, but I'm excited to try that pretty soon. All right. Okay, let's do another site.
Coming your way.
Okay. All right. Bayfield Cabin. Okay, so from context clues, I'm guessing you can rent this cabin, just because it says the word amenities up here. But I did have to think for a minute. So just again, keep that in mind that not everyone's willing to wait around and figure it out. So a good thing to do on here would be to have a button that clearly states like pick your dates, rent now, something like that.
That exists just below that.
Oh, it's under the fold.
Yep.
Where?
Book
Oh,
now.
okay. So again, that's
Vacation
visually,
cabin.
yeah, visually. While I know it's like, oh, I want people to see the picture of the cabin, our brains aren't engaging enough yet. Because again, I have to scroll down. It's a vacation cabin in the woods. So it'd be better if it could overlay it or be above
Maybe
it.
maybe I could make that picture smaller. I'm just still trying to figure out it's for Squarespace, and that's how big they made it. So if it was
Yes,
smaller, people could see that other stuff below it better, I guess.
yeah, for Squarespace, and I have found, because as I said, like design-wise, Squarespace is much more constrained in what it'll allow you to do. Often I've actually found that the like two-panel version where it's like there's a left panel and then a right picture often allows you to get more information faster. Because they surprisingly don't have as many options for text up top. Because
Yeah,
they like showing really big pictures, which is great on mobile, but on desktop, it just makes me have to scroll further.
right.
Um, I love dog friendly. That's good. Okay. Um, so this list is good. I'd almost put bullet points just because it lets people know that these are separate things and not like a big paragraph, because we do again tend to skim.
Mhm.
And so having it maybe be like a box on the right hand side while you have this other stuff that you're talking about. The book now, if you can try to get up here would be ideal. And I know, again, you said there's restrictions with Squarespace. If you could try to consolidate your menu so that there's less options up there, so you could put, even if you can't put a button in the top right, if you could have book now be the last thing on the menu, that's also really helpful. That's a little trick if your platform won't let you do that. And so I'm guessing you have a particular reservation system. Is that why the button looks that way? Did you embed a button from the
Right.
system? Yeah.
Yeah, I just that's not from a reservation system. That was just lifted off the internet. I needed a book now button, but
Well, so Squarespace should have buttons that you can just add that then you just put the link into Book Now. Um, but
they
so
have
what's going to help
pre-stock
you?
graphics. I didn't know that they had a contact manager until you just said it. I was using Constant Contact all these years.
Well, so Squarespace, and this is true of a lot of platforms since the pandemic, a lot of them started adding services they didn't originally had, like email. Or member areas or things like that. So sometimes it's going into Squarespace. Number one, make sure that you're actually upgraded to the latest version. I think they're on 7.1 now. Because there's a lot of big differences between 7.0 and 7.1. So just to see, the upgrade's not hard, it's just has to be like manually done.
Mm. Well,
And then
I don't ever manage it with an app. I manage it on the web, so I assume that's the latest whatever. I wouldn't even know how to manage it on a phone. I would have no idea.
well,
I
no,
guess.
I mean managing it within Squarespace on desktop. There's version 7.0 editor and there's a 7.1 editor.
Oh, well,
So
it just takes me right on in when I log in, and I don't think it gives me a choice as far as I remember. But
well, I don't want to get too far into the weeds on it, but just, I mean,
uh,
you can reach out to Squarespace help as well to say, like, somebody
yeah,
mentioned I might need to upgrade, and they can walk you through whether or not you need it. Usually, when you log in on the bottom left in that like
uh,
gray bar, there's usually it'll say which version you're on, and
uh,
you have more editing options in the 7.1 compared to the
oh,
7.
okay,
So just keep that in mind. And for you, the biggest thing is going to be headlines, like breaking this up. There's a lot of text here.
Right.
And so it's hard to see like what's going to be really important.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So it looks like you did a lot of updates probably around the holiday season, since a lot of these are geared towards that. So just encouraging you that if you want to have like seasonal type information, right now I'd be addressing things about summer, right? Because people are booking, or summer or fall, because people are booking for fall. I don't know how far ahead you're booking. If you're actually booked out until Christmas and you're trying to attract people for Christmas, you need to say that someplace up here. They're like booking now for December, so that people
Yeah.
know that they need to plan ahead. But you're going to want to have more headlines and clear sections. Because while it's great that you guys have had all these wonderful things happen, it's really easy to skip over them because I don't know how it impacts me. Like, what experience am I going to have coming? This is supportive information. It helps me know that you're a great place because other people are saying you're great, but you still need to make the case for why should I come though? Why is this a great place for me? So headlines are going to help a lot with that. Like even here where it says things to do, you can say there are lots of things to do in where are you located? Because for search engine optimization, you're going to want to, like, anytime you can mention specifically where you are can help for people who are looking for a cabin in wherever you're located.
Mhm.
So
What do you
yeah.
mean by headlines? When you say headlines?
So headlines,
What's a headline?
so a headline would be like a vacation cabin in the woods. See how this text is larger?
Mhm.
And it's centered and it's a different color. That's a headline. It visually breaks up the website so that people can know, like, oh, we're changing topics, we're changing information. And when
Mhm.
people are skimming, when we're quickly going through the site, this stands out. The rest of this kind of blends together. The blue catches my eye, but I know it's also links. Um, and then this line tells me I'm in a new section now. But this is still very tiny. And so again, I might just skip over it. This is a headline.
Mhm.
But having a Brazilian Cameroon deck, but what does that mean to me, the person who's coming to visit you? Why do I want that deck?
That's beautiful.
Okay, well, then maybe focus on beauty. If you want to sell beauty, you got to focus on talking about like enjoy the beauty of the woods, enjoy the
Uh-huh.
picturesque. Like you need to start emphasizing the
Right.
beauty, but just having a random thing that says like this is really pretty, it doesn't tell me why should that matter to me. You got to kind of spell it out for people. All right, so we only have 3 minutes left here. So if you could, I have one quick ask for you guys. I really do love giving this type of presentation to people like yourself. So if you could just take a few minutes and just let me know if this has been helpful for you or what type of information you wish I'd covered more, that is also very helpful to me because it's a lot we went through. I'm sorry we could only go through a couple of websites because I know the practical application when you can actually ask those questions makes a big difference. But if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's that your website is a tool and it can make your life better. When you're thinking about your business, a lot of people tend to think of their website as art on the internet or a big business card, but it really can help to guide people through the process you want them to go through. Tell them the action that you want them to take. Tell them the problems that you want to solve and how you're going to solve them. You get to decide how you present that. And so if you present the problem and the solution, then you're going to have people be more caught up in what's on your website. And then making it really clear through use of headlines, bold text, large fonts, things like that to break it up visually so people who are skimming can get information quickly. And then having pictures that support the emotion of success of what it is that you're trying to help people achieve. That helps to take your words and just give them so much more power. And then making sure that you have a way to stay in contact, that you can keep the conversation going, even if they're not ready to buy the first time they land on your site. If you at least have an email list, you can start doing email marketing and you can continue the conversation. So hopefully they'll come back again and then using your handy buttons, easily be able to do business with you. So thank you guys so much for being engaging. I really appreciate those of you that asked questions and were willing to have your websites be reviewed. I hope this was helpful. But thank you guys for being a great audience. Back to you, Andy.
Thanks so much for that. And thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us here. This event is being recorded, so I will go ahead and share the link with you once I get it uploaded. Should be sometime tomorrow. But again, thank you so much, Emily, for putting together a wonderful presentation. I hope you all got something out of that. I know I did as well, but we will go ahead and cap it there for today, and we will see you all next time. Take care.